The ship came through the wormhole sideways. That was the first sign that something had gone wrong. Captain Elena Vasquez gripped her chair as the entire vessel shook and sparks flew from 3 different control panels. The lights flickered twice before the backup systems kicked in, bathing the bridge in a soft red glow. "Report," she said. Her voice was calm. It was always calm. Lieutenant Park checked his screens with shaking hands. Captain, I don't know where we are. The wormhole destabilized. We're nowhere near our target coordinates." Commander Chen, the first officer, pulled up the external sensors. What he saw made him go very still. "Captain, you need to see this." Elena walked to his station and looked at the display. The space around them was filled with ships. Not dozens. Not hundreds. Thousands. Massive vessels that made their exploration ship look like a toy. Each one carried weapons that could crack a moon in half, and they were all pointed at the UES Perseverance. "Well," Elena said quietly, "this is new." The communications officer, a young woman named Torres, suddenly sat up straight. "Captain, we're receiving a transmission. Multiple frequencies." They're translating themselves. Some kind of universal translation system. Put it through." A harsh voice filled the bridge. It spoke in clicks and growls, but the translation came through clearly. "Unknown vessel. You have entered the sovereign territory of the Valari Dominion. Power down your engines and prepare to be boarded. Any resistance will result in immediate destruction. You have 30 seconds to comply." The bridge crew looked at their captain. They were afraid. Elena could see it in their eyes. They were a simple exploration vessel with minimal weapons, surrounded by what appeared to be an entire military fleet. By any logical measure, they should be terrified. Elena was not terrified. She had been terrified before, many years ago. She knew what real terror felt like. This was not it. "Torres, open a channel," she said. "Channel open, Captain." Elena straightened her uniform and spoke clearly. "Valari Dominion Fleet. This is Captain Elena Vasquez of the United Earthship Perseverance. We have arrived in your space by accident due to a wormhole malfunction. We come in peace and mean you no harm." She paused, then added, "However, I strongly suggest you lower your weapons. You do not want to trigger our automated distress beacon. Trust me on this." There was silence on the other end. Then the voice returned, sounding confused. "You threaten us? You are one small ship. We are the Valari Dominion. We control 40,000 star systems. We have conquered species beyond counting." Elena smiled slightly. "I'm not threatening you. I'm warning you. There is a difference. Now, may we speak to someone with actual authority? I believe we have much to discuss." The channel went silent. On the bridge, Commander Chen leaned close to Elena. "Captain, what are you doing? We don't have any distress beacon that could threaten them." Elena kept her eyes on the view screen. "They don't know that. And more importantly, they don't know what might answer if we did call for help. Let them wonder." An hour passed. The Dominion fleet did not fire, but they did not leave either. They simply watched, like predators, unsure if their prey might actually be dangerous. Finally, a new transmission came through. "Human vessel. The High Command has decided to send a diplomatic envoy to assess your situation. You will allow them aboard. You will answer all questions truthfully. Any deception will be punished severely." "We welcome your envoy," Elena replied. "We have nothing to hide." This was not entirely true, but Elena had learned long ago that sometimes a small lie could prevent a much larger conflict. The envoy arrived in a shuttle. It was larger than the Perseverance's entire cargo bay. He was a tall creature with gray skin, 4 arms, and eyes that seemed to look in multiple directions at once. He introduced himself as Ambassador Kethril. Elena met him at the airlock with a small honor guard. She bowed politely. "Ambassador, welcome aboard. I apologize that our ship is modest compared to your vessels." Kethril studied her with those strange eyes. "You are remarkably calm for someone in your position. Your ship is surrounded. Your weapons are useless against us. Yet you stand there as if this is merely an inconvenience." I have faced worse situations, Alina said simply. Would you like some tea? It's a traditional Earth's beverage. I find it helps during difficult conversations. The ambassador seemed unsure how to respond to this. He followed Alina to the ship's small conference room, where she had prepared a simple tea service. Her hands were steady as she poured. Tell me about your species, Kethril said. Where do you come from? What are your intentions? Alina handed him a cup. We come from a small planet called Earth, in a system you probably haven't cataloged. We're explorers. We were trying to map a new region of space when our wormhole went wrong. We truly did not mean to enter your territory. And yet here you are. Kethril did not drink the tea. The Dominion does not tolerate intruders. Usually, ships that enter our space without permission are destroyed immediately. You should be dead already. Why aren't we? The ambassadors for arms shifted uncomfortably. Because of the way you spoke? Because of the way you stand? Because when our fleet surrounded you, your crew did not scream, or beg, or try to run. You acted as if we were. A minor problem. Elena took a sip of her tea. I meant no disrespect.
As.
It was not disrespect that concerned us. It was confidence. Your ship has no chance against our fleet. You must know this. Yet you behave as if something else concerns you more than death at our hands. Thrall leaned forward. What has your species faced, human? What could possibly make you look at the might of the Volari Dominion and simply not care? Alina was quiet for a long moment. She looked out the small window at the massive warship surrounding them. Then she looked back at the ambassador. You ask what we have faced, she said softly. Let me ask you something first. How old is the Volari Dominion? 12,000 years? Alina nodded. And in those 12,000 years, have you ever encountered something that made you hide? Something that made you turn off all your lights and go silent, praying it would pass you by? Something that hunted you not for resources or territory, but simply because you existed? The ambassador did not answer. His eyes had gone very still. Humanity is young, Alina continued. We have only been among the stars for a few hundred years, but we have learned lessons that your dominion, in all its power, has apparently never had to learn. She set down her teacup. You look at us and see a tiny ship with no weapons. But, Ambassador, we are still here. Despite everything we have encountered, we are still here. That should tell you something. Kethril finally spoke. What should it tell us? Alina smiled, but there was no joy in it. That we are very, very good at surviving. Ambassador Kethril returned to his shuttle with more questions than answers. His report to the High Command was unusual. He did not recommend immediate destruction of the human vessel. Instead, he suggested something that had not happened in over 1,000 years. He suggested bringing the humans before the Dominion Council itself. The council chamber was enormous. It sat at the heart of a space station, the size of a small moon, in the capital system of the Volari Dominion. 12 species were represented here, each one a major power within the Dominion. Together, they've ruled over billions of beings across 40,000 worlds. They had crushed rebellions, conquered empires, and shaped the fate of this region of the galaxy for millennia. When Captain Alina Vasquez walked into the chamber, she looked around with polite interest, as if she were visiting a museum. You may sit, High Counselor, Vorith said. He was a massive creature, covered in thick scales, with teeth designed for tearing flesh. His species, the Volari, had founded the Dominion and still led it. We have questions for you, Lena sat in the chair provided. It was too large for her, clearly designed for bigger species. Her feet did not touch the floor. She did not seem to mind. I am happy to answer what I can, she said. Counselor Vorith leaned forward. Your species is unknown to us. Our records show no contact with humans before today. How is this possible? The Dominion has mapped this entire sector of the galaxy. Perhaps you missed us, Alina said simply. We are from a small planet in an unremarkable system. Easy to overlook. Our sensors are thorough, Alina shrugged. Then perhaps we were hiding. It's caused murmurs among the council members. Counselor Vex, a thin creature with too many joints, spoke next. Why would a species hide? From what? from many things. The universe is large and not always friendly. High Counselor Vorath slammed one massive fist on the table. Enough of these vague answers. We brought you here to learn about your people. You will tell us your technology, your population, your military strength. You will provide genetic samples for analysis. And you will acknowledge the authority of the Dominion over your species. Alina listened to all of this. Then she shook her head slowly. I am afraid those terms are not acceptable. The chamber went silent. No one spoke to the High Counselor that way. No one had refused the Dominion's demands in centuries. You refuse? Vorath's voice was low and dangerous. You understand what this means? Your ship will be destroyed. Your crew will die. And we will find your homeworld anyway, perhaps Alina said. But I do not think you will. And why not? Alina folded her hands in her lap. Because you are curious. You could have destroyed us already. You have the power. But instead, you brought me here to talk. You want to know why we are not afraid? You want to know what we have seen? She paused. I will tell you, but you may not like the answer. Counselor Mira, a being made of what appeared to be living crystal, spoke in a voice like chimes. Then tell us. What has your species encountered? Alina was quiet for a moment. When she spoke, her voice was soft. We call them by many names. The architects. The silence. The deep ones. They are not one enemy, but many, encountered over our short history among the stars. Some were ancient when the universe was young. Some came from places that should not exist. Some were so different from us that we could not even understand what they wanted, only that they wanted us gone. She looked around the chamber at the powerful beings who ruled thousands of worlds. You built an empire. You conquered your neighbors. You think you understand power? But there are things in this universe that do not care about empires. They do not negotiate. They do not conquer. They simply ... erase. Counselor Vorath tried to sound dismissive, but there was uncertainty in his voice. We have never encountered such beings. Perhaps your species imagines threats that do not exist. Perhaps Alina agreed. Or perhaps you have simply been lucky. Perhaps this sector of space is quiet because they have already passed through it long ago, and there was nothing left worth returning for.
Ow.
She smiled slightly. Or perhaps they have not found you yet. The universe is large, after all. Easy to overlook? Counselor Thex shifted nervously. You speak as if these beings are real. You speak as if you have faced them. We have. And survived. Elena's smile faded. Some of us, not all. Never all. The council chamber was very quiet now. These beings had ruled for 12,000 years. They had never known true fear, the kind that makes a species look up at the stars and wonder if something is looking back. Now, watching this small human woman speak so calmly about horrors they could not imagine, they felt something unfamiliar. They felt doubt. High Counselor Vorath spoke again, but his voice had changed. The threat was gone, replaced by something almost like curiosity. Why tell us this? If these beings exist, why warn us? We are strangers to you. We threaten to destroy you. Lena looked at him directly. Because I have watched civilizations fall. I have seen great powers reduced to ash because they did not listen when they had the chance. The Dominion is mighty. I do not deny this. But might means nothing against certain enemies. Only wisdom matters. Only preparation. She stood up from her chair, even though she had not been given permission. I am not asking you to believe me. I am not asking for anything. But I am telling you that the universe is stranger and more dangerous than you know. And when you finally learn this truth for yourselves, I hope you will remember that a human tried to warn you. She began to walk toward the door. 2 guards moved to stop her, but High Counselor Vorath raised one hand. The guards hesitated. Wait, Vorath said. You would simply leave? You have no demands? No requests? Alina turned back. Only one. Let my ship go. Let my crew return to our people. We did not come here to fight you or to join you. We only want to go home. And if we refuse... Alina was quiet for a moment. Then you will have made an enemy you do not need, and you will have lost a friend you do not yet know you need. The choice is yours, High Counselor. We have learned that choice matters more than power in the end. She waited by the door. The council members looked at each other, uncertain for the first time in centuries. Finally, Counselor Mira spoke. Let her return to her ship. We need time to discuss what we have heard. High Counselor Vorith wanted to object, but he found that he could not. Something in the human's words had unsettled him in a way that no enemy fleet ever had. He nodded slowly. Go. Return to your vessel. We will contact you with our decision. Lena bowed politely. Thank you for your time, counselors. I hope we will speak again under better circumstances. She walked out of the chamber, leaving 12 of the most powerful beings in the sector staring after her in silence. For the first time in the long history of the Dominion Council, they did not know what to do. News traveled fast in the Dominion. Within hours of the council meeting, rumors spread across thousands of worlds. A strange new species had appeared. They had refused the council's demands. They had spoken of enemies that even the mighty Dominion should fear. And most disturbing of all, they had not been destroyed. General Thaxel was not happy about any of this. He was the supreme military commander of the Dominion, a warrior who had led fleets into battle for 300 years. He had crushed rebellions on 100 worlds. He had never lost a single engagement. And now, he was watching his leaders hesitate because of one tiny ship with a calm captain. This is ridiculous, he told his officers. They are playing games with us. Psychological tricks. There are no great enemies hiding in the darkness. There is only the Dominion, and all who oppose the Dominion are destroyed. His second-in-command, a tactical expert named Versul, looked uncertain. General, the council has not yet made a decision. Should we not wait? The council has grown soft, Thaxel growled. They sit in their comfortable chambers and forget what made us strong. We did not build the Dominion through talking. We built it through action. He activated the fleet communications system. All vessels, this is General Thaxel. I am taking personal command of the situation with the human ship. We will escort them to a secure facility for proper interrogation. Any resistance will be met with overwhelming force. Move into formation. 300 warships began to change position, forming a tight sphere around the tiny human vessel. Each ship was armed with weapons that could crack a planet's crust. Together, they carried enough firepower to sterilize an entire solar system. On the bridge of the Perseverance, Commander Chen watched the tactical display with growing concern. Captain, they're surrounding us. This formation is designed to prevent escape. Alina studied the display calmly. I see it. What do we do? Nothing, for now. Let them posture. Lieutenant Park looked up from his station. Captain, I'm picking up a transmission. It's the general in command of that fleet. He's ordering us to power down all systems and prepare to be taken into custody. Lena sighed. Of course he is. There's always someone who thinks force is the answer to everything. Captain, with respect, they have 300 warships. We have. Well, we have good intentions and some interesting stories. Lena smiled slightly. We have more than that, Lieutenant. We have experience. She pressed a button on her chair. All hands, this is the captain. Prepare for emergency evasion protocol. This is not a drill. Throughout the ship, crew members strapped themselves into their stations. They had practiced this drill many times. They knew what it meant. It meant that something very dangerous was about to happen, and the ship was going to move in ways that should not be possible. Commander Chen looked at Alina. You're activating the escape systems? Those were designed for... ... double quotes. I know what they were designed for. Alina's voice was quiet, but sometimes you have to remind people that there are worse things in the universe than them. Computer, authorize Vasquez Alpha 7. Activate Protocol Shadow. The ship's computer responded in a calm voice. Protocol Shadow authorized. Warning. This system is designed for emergency escape from Class 7 threats or higher. Current threat assessment. Class 3. Are you sure you wish to proceed? Confirmed. Protocol Shadow activated. Brace for non-standard maneuvers. Outside, General Thaxel watched the human ship with satisfaction. They were completely surrounded. There was nowhere for them to go. In a moment, he would give the order to disable their engines and drag them to a prison facility. This whole embarrassing situation would be over. Then the human ship moved. It did not turn. It did not accelerate in any normal way. One moment it was in the center of the formation. The next moment, it was simply somewhere else, having passed through the tiny gaps between warships as if they were not there. Then it was somewhere else again. And again, and again, Thaxel watched in shock as the tiny vessel danced through his fleet like a ghost. His ships tried to track it, tried to target it, but it moved in ways that made no sense. It changed direction instantly, without slowing down. It seemed to anticipate every shot before it was fired, in 12 seconds. The Perseverance had moved from the center of the formation to a position directly behind Thaxel's flagship. It happened so fast that most of the sensor operators did not even see it happen. They simply looked at their screens, discovered that the human ship was now pointed at their rear engines. A transmission came through. It was Captain Vasquez, and she sounded almost apologetic. "General, I'm sorry for the sudden movement. Your formation reminded our automated systems of a hostile pattern we've encountered before. Old reflexes, I'm afraid. We did not mean to alarm you." Axel stared at his display. His hands were shaking, not from fear of the humans, but from the realization of what those movements meant. That ship had systems designed to escape from something that required that kind of speed, that kind of precision. Something that 300 warships would not be able to stop. "General," Versul's voice was hesitant. "What are your orders?" Thaxel did not answer immediately. He was a warrior. He understood combat, and he understood, looking at the tactical data from the last 12 seconds, that the humans had not attacked. They had not even tried to attack. They had simply ... left. Their entire system was designed for escape, not fighting. What kind of species builds ships meant only to run away? The answer came to him immediately. A species that has faced enemies where running is the only option. A species that has learned that some battles cannot be won, only survived. "General, should we pursue?" Thaxel watched the human ship sitting calmly behind his flagship. If they had wanted to attack, they could have. At that range, even their weak weapons could have caused damage, but they did not attack. They simply waited. "No," Thaxel said finally. His voice was quiet, stripped of its earlier confidence. "Hold position. Do not fire. Do not pursue, sir. That ship. Those systems were not built to fight us. They were built to escape from something else. Something that required that kind of speed." He paused. "I have been a soldier for 300 years. I have faced every enemy the Dominion has ever known, but I have never seen anything move like that. Whatever taught them to build those systems, I do not want to meet it." On the Perseverance, Commander Chen let out a breath he had been holding. "They're standing down." Alina nodded slowly. "Good. Send them a message. Tell them we apologize again for the confusion and that we remain willing to talk peacefully. You think they'll listen now?" Alina looked at the view screen, at the massive warships that had seemed so threatening just moments ago. "They'll listen. They just learned something important about us. Not that we're dangerous to them, but that something else is dangerous to us. And they're smart enough to wonder what that something might be." She settled back in her chair. Sometimes the best way to earn respect is not to show what you can do to others, but to show what you've survived. Now they know. We are survivors. And survivors are always worth listening to. After the incident with General Thaxel, the Dominion Council made a decision. They would not destroy the human ship. They would not arrest its crew. Instead, they would study them. Ambassador Cathrell was assigned to live aboard the Perseverance as a diplomatic observer. His mission was simple: learn everything he could about these strange creatures. At first, Cathrell expected to find secrets, hidden weapons, advanced technology, some explanation for why these humans acted the way they did. What he found instead was far more disturbing. The humans were ordinary. They ate meals together in a small dining area. They played games during their rest periods. They told jokes that Cathrell did not understand. They argued about small things and laughed about even smaller things. They were, in almost every way, unremarkable. And yet, Kethril noticed things. Small things that most observers would miss. He noticed that the crew never slept at the same time. There were always people awake, watching the sensors, even when there was nothing to watch. He noticed that every door on the ship could be sealed instantly, turning corridors into separate compartments. He noticed that the lights could be turned off completely with a single command. Making the ship invisible against the darkness of space, he asked Commander Chen about this during one of their conversations. Your ship seems designed for hiding. Every system, every procedure. It is all about disappearing. Chen nodded slowly. Old habits. We've learned that sometimes the best way to survive is to not be seen at all. Survive what? Chen did not answer. He just smiled sadly and changed the subject. The crew was kind to Kethril. They answered his questions about Earth, about their culture, about their history. But there were topics they avoided. When he asked about certain periods of their past, they would go quiet. Their eyes would become distant, looking at something Kethril could not see. One night, Kethril could not sleep. He wandered the ship's corridors and found himself in front of a small room he had not noticed before. The door was open slightly, and soft light came from inside. He looked in and saw a wall covered with small plaques and pictures. Crew members stood before it sometimes, just looking. Dr. Yuki Tanaka, the ship's medical officer, was there. She was a gentle woman, with gray in her hair and kindness in her eyes. She noticed Kethril watching and gestured for him to enter. "This is our memorial wall," she said quietly. "Every ship has one." Kethril looked at the plaques. Each one had a name and a date. Some had small pictures. There were hundreds of them. These are people who died? These are ships. Vessels we've lost over the years. Yuki pointed to different sections of the wall. The Endeavor lost during the first contact wars, the Horizon lost during the Long Dark, the Armstrong, the Beijing, the New Hope. All lost to things we still don't fully understand. Kethril read some of the inscriptions. One said, U.S. Morning Star lost to the Silence, 2,287. Crew of 400. No survivors. Another read. UES Defiance lost during Iteration 7. Crew of 850 we remember. What is the Silence? Kethril asked. What is Iteration 7? Yuki was quiet for a long moment. The Silence was ... is. We're not sure if they're still out there. They were entities that lived in the space between stars. They hated noise, movement, life. When they found a ship, they would. Quiet it. We lost 17 vessels before we learned how to hide from them. And Iteration 7? Yuki's face became very still. Iteration 7 was a mistake. Our mistake. We found something ancient. Something that had been sleeping for millions of years. We woke it up. It took us 11 years to put it back to sleep. We lost 43 ships and 2 colonies. Kethril felt cold despite the ship's warmth. How many enemies like this have your people faced? Yuki looked at the memorial wall, at the hundreds of names stretching back through human history. Too many to count. Some were natural disasters on a cosmic scale. Some were ancient beings who saw us as insects. Some were things we still cannot explain, even now. She turned to face him. We don't talk about it much, Ambassador. Not because we're hiding anything, but because... Because remembering is painful. And because some things, once spoken aloud, feel more real. Kethril looked at this small human woman, this doctor who healed wounds and eased suffering. How do you keep going? How does your species not simply give up? Yuki smiled, but there were tears in her eyes. Because giving up means they win. Every ship we lost, every life taken, every colony silenced. They would all be meaningless if we stopped. So we keep going. We keep exploring. We keep hoping that maybe, somewhere out there, we'll find a place that's safe. A place where we don't have to be afraid anymore. The next day, Kethril sought out Captain Vasquez. He found her in her ready room, looking at star charts. She looked up when he entered. Ambassador, what can I do for you? I visited your memorial wall last night. Dr. Tanaka told me about some of your history. Sat down across from her. I need to understand something. Your species has faced horrors beyond anything the Dominion has encountered. You have lost ships, colonies, entire generations to things that should not exist. And yet, when you arrived in our space, surrounded by our weapons, you did not seem afraid of us at all. Elena set down her datapad. Would you be afraid of a thunderstorm after surviving a supernova? That is not an answer. Yes, it is. You just don't like it. Lena leaned back in her chair. Ambassador, the Dominion is powerful. I do not deny this. But your power is ... normal. Ships, weapons, armies. These are things we understand. Things we can fight or run from or negotiate with. The enemies we have faced, they did not play by those rules. They did not want territory or resources or submission. They wanted us gone, erased, forgotten. She stood and walked to the window, looking out at the stars. Every human child grows up knowing that the universe tried to kill us, not once but many times. Our world was struck by asteroids, frozen by ice ages, scorched by radiation. And when we finally reached the stars, we found that the universe was not done trying. But here we are, still breathing, still hoping. She turned back to Kethril. We do not fear the Dominion because we have learned that fear is a choice. We can choose to be afraid of your ships and your weapons. Or we can choose to remember that we have faced worse and survived. The second choice is harder, but it is the choice that has kept humanity alive. Kethril was silent for a long time. Finally he spoke. I think I understand now. Your species is not brave because you do not feel fear. You are brave because you feel it constantly and choose to keep going anyway. Alina smiled. Now you're starting to see us clearly, Ambassador. We are not heroes. We are survivors. And sometimes that is braver than being a hero ever could be. Ambassador Kethril sent his final report to the Dominion Council after 3 weeks aboard the Perseverance. It was the most unusual report in the history of the diplomatic service. It contained no military assessments, no technological analyses, no strategic recommendations for conquest. Instead, it contained a simple message. These people have looked into the abyss, and the abyss looked away first. We should not make them our enemies. The council convened to discuss the report. High Counselor Voreth read it 3 times before speaking. The ambassador has lost his objectivity. He has been influenced by these humans. Counselor Mira, the crystalline being, disagreed. Or perhaps he has seen something we have been too proud to notice. Our intelligence networks have spent 3 weeks searching for any reference to these enemies the humans mention. The architects? The silence. The things from the long dark, we have found nothing. Because they are lies, Voreth insisted. Invented to frighten us, or because these enemies are so terrible that no evidence survives their passing. This came from Counselor Drex, an ancient being who rarely spoke. We assume we know everything worth knowing about this galaxy, but we have only explored a fraction of it. Who can say what waits in the regions we have never reached? The council debated for hours. Some wanted to destroy the humans as a matter of principle. Some wanted to capture them and extract their secrets by force. But others, more and more as the hours passed, began to argue for something different. Something that had not happened in the entire history of the Dominion. They began to argue for alliance. Consider what we have observed, Counselor Thek said. Their ship escaped from General Thaxel's fleet using systems designed for evasion, not combat. They spoke of ancient enemies, but showed no interest in making new ones. They could have lied to us, told us what we wanted to hear, but instead they chose honesty, even when it put them at risk. He paused. These are not the behaviors of a species that wants war. These are the behaviors of a species that has had enough of war and simply wants to survive. High Counselor Voroth looked around the chamber. He saw the doubt in his colleague's eyes. Not doubt about the Dominion's power, but doubt about the wisdom of using that power against these strange, weary survivors from beyond their borders. Very well, he said finally. We will offer them a choice. Not conquest. Not imprisonment. We will offer them partnership. The invitation was sent to the Perseverance. Captain Alina Vasquez was asked to return to the council chamber, not as a prisoner or a petitioner, but as a potential ally. She accepted. When she walked into the chamber for the second time, the atmosphere was different. The hostility was gone, replaced by something that looked almost like curiosity. Almost like hope, High Counselor Varath stood to address her. Captain Vasquez, the Dominion Council has spent considerable time discussing your situation. We have read Ambassador Kethral's reports. We have analyzed your ship's capabilities. We have debated your words and your warnings. He paused. We have decided not to destroy you. Elena raised an eyebrow. I appreciate that. We have also decided not to demand your submission. The Dominion has never made this offer before, but these are unusual circumstances. Vorath seemed to struggle with the next words, as if they were foreign to his tongue. We would like to propose an alliance. A partnership between your people and ours. A murmur ran through the chamber. Several counselors looked uncomfortable. This was unprecedented. The Dominion did not make alliances. The Dominion conquered Dolina was silent for a moment. Why? Because you were right. Varath's voice was quiet. We have ruled this sector for 12,000 years. We have faced every enemy we have encountered and won. But we have never faced anything like what you describe. We have never hidden in the dark, praying not to be found. We have never lost entire colonies to things we could not understand. He stepped down from his platform and walked toward her, stopping a few feet away. Up close, he was massive, towering over the small human woman. But he did not seem threatening now. He seemed almost humble. Teach us, he said. Not your weapons. Not your technology. Teach us how to survive. Teach us how to see threats before they find us. Teach us how to endure when everything seems lost. He extended one massive clawed hand, and in return, we will offer you sanctuary, a place to rest, a place to call home. Alina looked at his hand, then at the council chamber, then at the stars visible through the great windows. She thought of the memorial wall on her ship. She thought of all the vessels lost, all the people gone, all the horrors that humanity had faced alone. We did not come here looking for help, she said. We came here by accident. We expected to fight, or run, or die, as we have done so many times before. Her voice cracked slightly. But we are tired, Counselor. So very tired. Running for so long takes something from you that is hard to get back. She reached out and took his hand. Her small fingers could barely wrap around one of his claws, but the grip was firm. We accept your alliance. We will share what we know. The patterns of dangerous space, the warning signs of ancient evils, the protocols for hiding when hiding is the only option. She looked up at him. And maybe together, we will both be stronger than we were apart. The council chamber erupted in noise. Some voices were pleased, some were uncertain, but none were hostile. Something had changed. The mighty Valari Dominion, rulers of 40,000 worlds, had just made their first true alliance, and they had made it with a species that had arrived in their territory by mistake, armed with nothing but survival instincts and hard-won wisdom. As Alina walked out of the chamber, Ambassador Kethrel fell in a step beside her. You have done something remarkable, Captain. The Dominion has never treated anyone as equals before. Alina smiled tiredly. We're not equals, Ambassador. They are still far more powerful than we are. But power isn't everything. Sometimes knowledge matters more. Sometimes experience is worth more than weapons. They reached a great window overlooking the capital station. Thousands of ships moved through the space beyond, going about the business of empire. Somewhere among them, the tiny Perseverance waited. Can I ask you something? Kethrel said. Of course. The things you warned us about. The architects? The silence. The others. Will they come here? Will they find the Dominion? Alina looked out at the stars. Her face was unreadable. I don't know, Ambassador. The universe is large, and they are patient. But they are out there. They are always out there. She turned to face him. That's why this alliance matters. When they come, and they will come eventually, you will not face them alone. Humanity learned to survive by hiding, by running, by never stopping until we were safe. But maybe, with the Dominion beside us, we can learn something new. What is that? Elena's smile was small but genuine. Maybe we can learn to stand and fight together. She walked toward the shuttle that would take her back to her ship. Behind her, the Dominion stretched across thousands of stars, powerful beyond imagination. But even that power felt small against the vastness of the unknown. For the first time in its long history, the mighty Valari Dominion was glad to be the lesser partner in an alliance, because whatever had forged humanity into what they were, whatever waited in the darkness between the stars, they would not have to face it alone, and in a universe full of terrors. That was worth more than all the weapons ever built.